Hey dude, this is Jaden Storm Convention Team Shadow Strike, and I have a new deck profile for you guys. So this is going to be a deck profile on my Gear Chronicle deck. Now, a lot of people were asking me if I was going to build Gear Chronicle, and at first I wasn't sure, but then I had a friend tell me, well, you play Kagero and they retire units, and Gear Chronicle does similar to it. Instead, it rewinds them, puts them on the bottom of the deck. So technically it's kind of the same thing, so maybe you should give it a try. I'm glad I took his advice and decided to try it out. I did some playtesting with this, my first build, on Monday at my locals, and I really enjoyed the deck. So I'm going to get straight into this deck profile, so hope you guys enjoy it. So here we go. So, make sure I get this good and centered here for you guys. So for the starting Vanguard, I run Timepiece Draco Kid. This is the Gear Chronicle Grade 3 Searcher. It's basic Forerunner ability, Counterblast 1, put them in the soul, and look at the top 5 cards of your deck for a Grade 3. Now, some people might ask, why am I not playing Gunner Gear? The reason I'm not playing Gunner Gear, because if you're grade stuck, he doesn't do you any good. You can use this, say, if you for some reason don't draw a Grade 3. That way it kind of gives you a safety net. But Gunner Gear is, a good card, but I've always told you guys that consistency is our friend, and this guy improves consistency, and plus he's adorable, so he looks like he belongs in Leonardo da Vinci's workshop, I think. So I play Timepiece, but if you play Gunner Gear and it works for you, then I advise you to stick with that. For the triggers, I play 4 Steam Battler Dadazig, and 4 Steam Battler Meshda for 8 crit. Next, I play 4 draw triggers in Lucky Pot Draco Kid. And then 4 heal triggers, Steam Maiden Uluru, I think is how her name is pronounced. Some people I've seen are teching the stand trigger. I believe it's a G-Break 1, and it's either when it's called or when it boosts or something. You can return it to the deck, and you can take one of your face-up G units and flip it face down. To be real honest, I really don't see the point in that, because this deck revolves around Stride, so chances are if you use all your G units, your opponent's not going to last that long. I mean, I don't see the game lasting that long, especially in this format, so I really don't think the stand trigger is necessary. Now, if you like the stand trigger and it works for you, that's great, because I know some people, they say they'll just take out 4 of their crits and then play Rainbow. And if that works for you, then that's great. Then I encourage you to keep doing that. But I go with 8 crit, because I like the little extra pressure of having the extra crits floating around. Grade 1s. We play 4 Steam Maiden Arlem, which is our G Perfect. So, obviously, her ability is whenever you use her to guard, if there's another copy of her in your damage zone, you may flip 1 card face up in your damage zone. Now, just keep in mind, guys, the new G Perfects, you can only protect your Vanguard with them, which I still say you should play this over the other one, because I understand some people are really scared about the cross, but you would rather have these, considering this deck counterblasts a lot. I know some Royal Paladin players prefer to play one of the older Royal Paladin Perfects for the cross, but honestly, that deck counterblasts a lot, and it needs the unflipping power. So these are your best choice. You just have to be... I've always told people you can't build your deck around one entire idea, or around one entire deck that's going to give you problems. This is your best friend. Yes, that means that they can send the end or the cross to attack one of your rear guards. But in the end, that's still only... Even if I was using this deck and against the X, if they attack one of my rear guards, all I'm losing is a rear guard, and all they're getting is basically 2 more cards than usual. And then you can use this to nullify when they swing at your Vanguard if they got crits. So, in the end, I just think this is a better choice. But you're entitled to your opinion. If you think the other Perfect Guard suits your playstyle better, then continue to do that. Next, we play 4 Steam Breath Dragon. So this, I'm not really sure what these things are called. I've heard them called Stride Enablers. That's normally what I've referred to them as, or the Stride Fodder card. But his ability is, when this unit is placed on the rear guard, you may reveal a grade 3 from your hand, and then search out one grade 3 with Chrono Jet in its name, and add it to your hand, and then discard a card. So that tells us that there will be another Chrono Jet card eventually, supposedly, or they're just leaving it open so in case they want to. And second, this card's ability is, whenever he's discarded from your hand when paying the cost for Stride, he gets +2 to his grade, so you can discard him and you can immediately Stride. So, next we play 4 Summit Crest Gearwolf. Now, this is one of the best cards in the deck. It's kind of like the Bruno for the deck, like in Liberators. Except anytime his ability is a Generation Break 1, so you've had to have at least strode once in order to get his skill active. But then every time you rewind a unit during that turn, he gains +3k, so it can make him a 10k boost for any of your columns, which is very nice. And then finally, I played 2 Steam Skara GG. This is our Calamity Tower Wyvern clone for Gear Chronicle. When this unit is placed on the rear guard, you may Soul Blast 2 and draw a card. Grade 2s, we play 4 Steam Fighter Amber. This is one of the key cards of the deck. It is probably our best unit to do some combos with to get to rewind multiple units. His ability is Generation Break 1. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, if this unit is boosted, you may Counterblast 1. If you do, choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards, and your opponent puts that unit on the bottom of his or her deck, or, as the term that it's called, you may rewind it. So, you simply would just take one of their rear guards, and it goes to the bottom of their deck. So, but this card is really, really good, and to rewind a grade 2 or less for a cheap Counterblast of 1 is pretty easy. All you have to do is Stride at least once, and that's not hard at all. Next, I play 4 Smoke Gear Dragon. Now, Smoke Gear Dragon, to me, the reason I play 4 of him is I really want to ride him for my grade 2. The reason is because a lot of 9Ks are in decks now, so that means if your opponent rides a 9K and they're boosting it with their starter, you can just lay down a 10K and no pass it. And it's just a really good defense move because there's not a whole lot of ways that, unless your opponent is playing a 10K, can hit this. So if they're playing only 9Ks, there's a good strong possibility they either A, won't be able to hit you, or you can just drop a cheap amount of shield and they can't even hit you even if they do trigger. So I prefer the Smoke Gears just for that defensive purpose. And also, you can still call it to the rear guard, after you're at grade 3, and it still serves as a great rear guard. So, but the main reason I play 4 is I want to see it to ride for my grade 2. And then finally, we play 3 copies of Steam Knight Puzzer 3, I think is how that's pronounced. So, this unit's ability is, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, you may Soul Blast 2. If you do, until the end of that battle, your opponent cannot call grade 0 cards from their hand to the Guardian Circle. So it's a Silent Tom, but you have to Soul Blast 2 to get that effect. So, he's there. But I originally was going to go 4 him and only 3 Smoke Gear, but I'd rather go 4 Smoke Gear. That way I don't have to ride my Amber Fighter or him. That way I have the highest chance of possible to ride Smoke Gear. So, you might be asking why I'm not playing the Generation Break 1 card. That's the new 12k attacker. The reason I'm not is because, to be honest, I don't like those cards because they read, okay, they're a Generation Break 1 unit, but they read, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, this unit gets plus 3,000 power. That means it doesn't get that ability if it attacks a rear guard, and I don't like that. I don't like having a card that's only limited to the Vanguard like that. I would prefer just to play the 10Ks. because at least in this way I have this for defensive purposes, and I have these to help me for the late game push, and then I have these to help me for just get some key rewinding in and limit my opponent's field. So I just don't like them. If you play them and they work for you, that's great. That's just my reason behind it. For grade 3s, first off, I guess the one that is expected is I play 4 copies of Chrono Jet Dragon. So, Chrono Jet Dragon's ability is Generation Break 2. When this unit attacks a Vanguard until the end of that battle, this unit gets plus 5,000 power, and your opponent cannot call grade 1 or greater units from their hand to the Guardian Circle. So, he has a Glory Maelstrom effect once you have strode at least twice. And then his second ability, one that you'll use probably fairly frequently, easily at least 3 times a game, whenever you stride over him, you may counterblast 1 and rewind one of your opponent's units. I think it's any unit, yep. So all you have to do is stride over him, and you can rewind 1 unit for a cheap counterblast of 1, which is real easy. So I think I finally figured out what these cards are called that have abilities when you stride over them. I believe I heard someone refer to them as a Heartbreaker, which makes a lot of a Heartbreaker, because when you stride, the card you stride over is considered the heart. So that's what I call them. So if you ever hear me use the term Heartbreaker, that's what I'm talking about. But they still technically haven't said what they are in the show, so you can call them whatever the hell you want. But I call them a Heartbreaker. So obviously this is our grade 3 that we want to ride into all the freaking time. For multiple reasons. It is Chrono Jet Dragon. It's the avatar of Chrono Shindo, the main protagonist in Cardfight Vanguard G's anime. But I will admit this clan has grown on me quite a bit. You know, after using it, I do see some similarities to my playing styles, so maybe I'm glad I took my friend's advice and decided to finally build this deck. So, 4 Chrono Jets. Next, I play 3 copies of Ruin Disposal Dragon. This is the Legion that came in set 1. It is not the greatest. He Legions with Bazaar. So, basically his ability is when you Legion, you may rewind a grade 2 or lower unit. And that's only a one-time thing, only when you Legion. And then whenever he attacks a Vanguard, he gains plus 2k. So when you're in Legion, he'll swing for 22. When he's by himself, he swings for 13. So that's all he does, but the main reason that he's there is in case you want a Legion, just to put some triggers back or some other cards. Honestly, the Legion in set 2 is what I'll be playing. Because I like that card better, but as of right now, we only have this to work with, so we have to use what we have. Now, I play 1 more grade 3, and the only reason I play 1 copy of this card is I don't have a 4th Ruin Disposal, but honestly, I'm not going to beat myself over the head if I don't find it. I play 1 copy of Steam Maiden Ulul. She's not bad. Her skill is pretty cool. Her skill is Generation Break 1 during your turn. Obviously a Vanguard skill. Generation Break 1, during your turn, this unit gets plus 3,000 for each card face up in your G-Zone. So if you've strode 4 times, she gets plus 12,000 power. So she's pretty cool. So if you run out of counterblasts with Chrono Jet, you can just ride straight into her, and you'll have yourself a, say if you strode 3 times, or just 3 times, she's 20k by herself. So that's pretty cool. And honestly, I would probably play more of her if I had more of her, but I only have 1. So what I might end up doing is actually just taking the Ruin Disposals out and just playing for her. But anyway, this does work, because generally you're going to ride Chrono Jet first anyway, so the other grade 3s that you play really don't mean much. That's what's so nice about the Stride format, is you can kind of be techie about your grade 3s again, because back during the Legion format, you had your main Legion, you had your backup Legion. In the Break Ride format, you had your Break Ride, and then you had the unit that you Broke Road over the Break Ride. So, what's nice about the Stride format is you can kind of get a little more creative like you used to be able to back during, like, the early stages, which is nice. But you can edit this any way you want. Fate Wheel Dragon is also a solid choice. I just don't like Fate Wheel because you have to counterblast one to get its effect, whereas she's free. So, and if you've been counterblasting with Chrono Jet, your Steam Amber fighters, and your G units, you're really not going to have the counterblast to use for Fate Wheel, so it's kind of pointless. That's why she's a better option, or your Legion, because they don't cost you any counterblasting. So that's the main deck. So let's get into the G zone. So for my first unit is I play 4 copies of Interdimensional Dragon, Chronos Command Dragon. Now I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, Jesus Christ, Jaden, you don't need 4 Chronos commands. I don't know why I decided to do my a Back to the Future impersonation for you of the professor, but the reason I'm playing 4 of this card is because this card drives so much fear into your opponent, because if they have a field and you spring this on them, they know what happens if this hits. Generally it means they're fucked, because if they have 5 units and this unit's attack hits and you rewind their whole field, you basically -5 them while you're adding 3 cards to your hand, and you know that's pretty hard to come back from. His ability, I guess I've already spoiled it, but his ability is when this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, you may Counterblast 2, Soul Blast 1, and discard 1, and rewind all of your opponent's rearguards back to their deck. Now, if you do not have 4 Chronos commands, that's fine. Realistically, all you need's 2. I always wanted to play at least 3, but I decided to go ahead and just put my 4th in there just because I love this card so much. Because this is the reason I decided to, one of the reasons that I was originally going to build Gear Chronicle was because I just love this guy's artwork, because he reminds me of an Aeon or a GF, if you've ever played Final Fantasy, from, I think it's 8, I can't remember which one, but one of the Aeons or the GFs looked similar to him. So I like Chronos Command. I think he applies so much pressure. If you're facing Nova Grapplers, Aqua Force, Neo Nectar, when they come out, I mean, this card puts an insane amount of pressure on them to where they have to guard it. And if they don't, they know what's going to happen. And just because you spring this on them, if they only have 1 rear guard, you don't have to use its skill. I just want to make sure I have as many of these as I could have. Even though when Fate Rider comes out, my G deck will probably change up a little bit because I think Fate Rider is amazing. So, and then for my last unit, obviously I'm playing 4 copies of Interdimensional Dragon, Ragnarok Dragon. So Ragnarok's ability is a little cool, actually. His ability is when this unit attacks a Vanguard, you may Counterblast 1. If you do until the end of your turn, your opponent cannot call grade 0s from their hand to the Guardian Circle. Hang on, no wait, I read that wrong. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do until the end of that battle, sorry guys, until the end of that turn, that'd be stupid. If you do until the end of that battle, meaning this card's attack, your opponent cannot call grade 0s from their hand to the Guardian Circle. And then if you have at least 2 cards face up in your G zone, he gains +1 crit. Now, you could ride into this first if you really wanted to get that Silent Tom effect off early, but if you do that, and then you want to use Ragnarok again early, that leaves you with 1 dead Ragnarok. So generally, I would stride into a Chronos command first. Now, if you have the promo from set 1 that was given out at Sneak Peeks, Lost Age Dragon, you could play him as a first stride, but honestly, that's why Chronos Command is in here. I'd just rather go into him quicker, because some people like to rush, and if you're playing against one of those people that like to rush, you can just drop Chronos Command on them when they have very few cards in their hand, especially if you stride first. Unless they have a perfect guard, you know, here comes a big attack that might have a boost, and if you don't have a perfect guard and you only have 3 or 4 cards in your hand, you know, you're kind of screwed, because even if your opponent has 4 cards in their hand, let's say they make it 2 to pass, and you double trigger and get through, not only did they waste all those cards, they're about to lose their field too, you know, so what are they going to do? So that's the reason behind playing 4 Chronos commands, even though you really don't need 4 Chronos commands, you really only need 2, but I decided to play all 4 of mine, so that's my G deck. So but like I said, we do know 1 more of the G units that's coming out in set 2, which is Fate Rider Dragon. Fate Rider Dragon, honestly, is one of my favorites, even though he seems to be a very undervalued card. But, you know, I will do a deck profile on this, you know, once set 2 is here and I get all the stuff for it, even though there's only a couple of cards that I actually want from the set for Gear Chronicle. So anyway, guys, that is my Gear Chronicle deck. So, I hope you guys enjoyed it, so make sure in the comment section below you leave your thoughts, comments, questions, anything. If there's anything I didn't cover about Gear Chronicle, please let me know. If there's anything else that you want me to do on Gear Chronicle, feel free to ask me to do it. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, thumbs up this video, share it with your friends, and I'll see you next time.